to show you how to mix up some basic colours, and we're going to look at greens, and I'm going to use, I've got some colours out here. I've got two yellows, cadmium yellow and lemon yellow, ultramarine blue there and crimson. And I'm going to start up by mixing a basic green using cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. If we just mix those two together, quite a lot of yellow. Yellow is the weaker of the two colours, so quite a lot of yellow there. And I'm going to put that colour down there, and that will give me that green. So that's cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. If I mix lemon yellow and ultramarine blue, you'll notice, I hope the camera can pick this up, you get a different quality of green. Okay, lemon yellow is transparent and cool and will give you fresh greens. Cadmium yellow is opaque and warm and will give you slightly earthier greens. Right, we're going to mix up, we're going to develop that idea a bit. I'm going to start with a pure green at the top, prismatic green, and this green is mixed up of cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. That's a prismatic green, just made up of two primaries. If I add a tiny bit of crimson to that green, like this, oops, just change that a little bit, just try and make the difference a bit more obvious. If I put a tiny bit of red, its complementary colour, into that green, you'll get a muted green. You can see it's beginning to get a red tinge to it. So prismatic colours are just two primary colours mixed together. If you add its complementary colour, you'll get a muted colour. If I add a bit more, the colour will start to become grey. So this is called a chromatic grey, where you can still see the base colour, you can still see the base colour of green, but I'm putting more and more of its complementary in, and the more complementary you mix with it, the more grey it will become, the less green it will become, until eventually, when you mix the colours together, like this, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of white with it, just to enhance the greyness of it. You'll end up with a very neutral, I hope, you'll end up with a very neutral green, or a very neutral colour, really. It's taking longer than I thought this, just to get it as neutral as I can. I think that should do. Just put a tiny bit more white with that, just to make it, the grey, a bit more obvious. So you'll end up with a colour like that, and that's called an achromatic grey. So it go where you can't really tell what the original colour was. It could be all sorts, it could be blue, it could be red, the base colour, you're not quite sure, so it becomes a lot more neutral. So a pure colour will be prismatic, muted, chromatic, colourful, grey, and achromatic, so a neutral grey. All colours work in relationship with each other, in relationship to their surroundings. They don't work in isolation. So don't judge a colour when you're making a painting or a print. Don't judge colours in isolation on their own. They're going to work with all the other colours that surround them. And colours will appear to change when you put them in different relationships. Let me give you an example. Let's start with this. Let's start with this yellow colour here. Just going to put 2 blobs of yellow down there. So this is just cadmium yellow on white paper, and the white of the paper tends to overpower the yellow. They're very close in tone, which means they're the same lightness, darkness, and the white is kind of overwhelming the yellow a bit. If I surround the yellow with black, this is just black pigment, so it's not, this is black straight out of a tube. And I'm going to put the black around this yellow here, right up to the edge. If I put that black around the yellow, you'll perhaps notice, I hope, that the yellow actually comes into its own and it starts to glow like a traffic light. And light appears to be emanating from that yellow. There, the yellow looks rather flat and dead in some respects, but the black brings the yellow to life. Lots of white around a colour tends to diminish its effect. Lots of dark or contrast around a colour tends to enhance its effect. I'll show you with a more neutral colour. I'll go back to this. Green I was using earlier, and just going to mix up a grey green. And I'll put 2 different blobs down, and as you can see again. This green does look very grey, looks very neutral, and looks rather drab, and looks quite dark next to the white of the paper. If I surround that with black, this rather drab looking colour over here suddenly becomes a lot more colourful, and you can tell there it looks like a drab greyish colour. Here it definitely looks green. Right, I'll show you one last thing. Like I say, colours change. Colours have lots of potential. So any single colour has the potential to be other colours or have other effects. So if I use it, well, let's go back to this green again. We'll use a similar kind of green that I've just used. I'm going to paint a band of this green. Like so. Alright, and when you see this green against the white paper like that, it probably looks if you were to judge it in tonal terms, you'd say that's a dark green. It's certainly a lot darker than the white of the paper. But if you surround it, again, we're going to use black. I'm going to surround half of it with black, like this. All of a sudden, that dark green becomes a light green because its relationship with its background has changed. So this colour, in a great scheme of things, is neither light nor dark. It depends what it's next to. So it has the potential to be both. So there are lots of other dimensions to colour. Colour is a massive subject. Colour is everywhere and it's pretty much infinite, really. But maybe another time we'll look at ideas like opacity and transparency, and maybe look at colour mixing to create particular moods or effects like calmness or drama, and spatial effects using the idea of warm and cool colours to create a feeling of space or depth in your picture. Thank you.